She rejected me 8 times, so I moved on. But when I married someone else, she crashed the wedding. She said no the first time, I laughed it off. By the 8th, I realized I was her backup plan. That sentence sums up nearly 10 years of my life. And if you've ever been someone's almost, you'll understand exactly what kind of hell that is. I met Lily when I was 15. She was the new girl at our high school, the kind that made everyone stop talking the moment she walked into a room. I don't think it was just her looks. Though, yeah, she was gorgeous in that soft, movie kind of way. It was how she carried herself, confident but not arrogant, quiet but somehow magnetic. I was the opposite. I wasn't the class clown, not the star athlete, not even the guy teachers remembered. I was just there. The dependable kid who handed in homework early, held doors open, and got friend zoned faster than you could blink. The first time we talked was in biology. She couldn't find a partner, so the teacher paired her with me. She smiled, said, "Guess you're stuck with me, nerd boy." And just like that, I was gone. For weeks, I looked forward to that 1 hour class more than anything else in my life. We talk about random stuff, how she wanted to study psychology, how I hated sports but loved fixing things, how she didn't believe in fairy tales but wanted one anyway. I didn't realize it back then, but I was already halfway down a cliff and she was the one holding the rope. The first time I told her I liked her, it was stupidly casual. We were walking home after school and she mentioned how she didn't believe in high school relationships. I laughed and said, "So, does that mean you'd say no if I asked you out?" She looked at me, smiled, and said, "You're sweet, Ethan. But yeah, I'd say no." It didn't hurt that much, not yet. I shrugged it off, joked about shooting my shot, and we laughed. But that laugh stuck with me longer than it should have. By the second time, it was prom season. Everyone had dates except me. She wasn't going with anyone either, or so I thought. I asked if she'd go with me, just as friends, maybe more. She smiled again, the kind of smile that makes you think you've got a chance. Then she said, "You're my best friend, Ethan. I don't want to ruin that." And like an idiot, I nodded and told her I understood. She went to prom with another guy a week later. He was a senior, football captain, all charm and dimples. I spent that night helping my mom set up her new TV, pretending I wasn't dying inside. Third time was after that breakup. She came crying to me, mascara running, heartbroken because guys suck. I held her while she cried, told her she deserved better, that someone would treat her right one day. She looked up at me, eyes wet, and said, "Maybe that someone's you." I swear my heart stopped. I leaned in just a little, waiting, hoping. But then she laughed, said, "Kidding, don't look so serious," and walked away to get tissues. That night, I told myself it didn't mean anything, but deep down, I already knew I was hooked. By the 4th time, we were in college, different universities, same city. We'd still text, call, hang out when we could, and every time she broke up with someone, I was her emotional first responder. One night, after helping her through another breakup, I finally asked, "Why do you always come to me, Lily?" She said, "Because you get me. You're the only one who does." So I asked again if she'd ever think about us. She paused, smiled sadly. "Ethan, you're too good for me. You'd regret it." Too good, that one stung, like she was complimenting me with a knife. 5th time was a year later during a college party. I was tipsy, she was drunk. We were laughing on the porch when she grabbed my hand and said, "You're still the sweetest guy I know." I kissed her. She didn't pull away. For a full 5 seconds, it was everything I'd ever wanted. Then she whispered, "We can't." I asked, "Why not?" And she said, "Because it'd mean something." That line haunted me for years. Because she was right to me, it would have meant everything. By the 6th time, I was 22. I had a decent job, a car that barely worked, and a heart that still did backflips every time she texted me. Hey, she'd broken up with yet another guy, some musician who cheated on her. We were walking by the river, and I told her straight up, "I can't keep doing this. I've loved you for years, Lily. I've always been there. When is it my turn?" She froze, looked down, and said, "Ethan, I don't want to lose you." I said, "You won't. Just give me a chance." She said, "I can't. I don't want to ruin us." That night, I went home and punched my pillow until I fell asleep. 7th time was pure stupidity. She called me crying because she'd gotten engaged to a guy who cheated on her 2 months later. I showed up at her apartment with food and wine. We talked, we laughed, and she said, "I wish I'd met you before everyone else." I said, "You did." She went quiet, looked away, changed the subject. By that point, I was emotionally exhausted, but still, I held on because she always gave me just enough hope to keep me close. A text when she was lonely, a compliment when I was moving on, a memory whenever I started forgetting. She knew exactly what she was doing. The 8th time was the last. It was college graduation week. I'd spent months planning this, not some big public thing, but a quiet, meaningful gesture. I wrote her a letter, bought flowers, and waited by the old coffee shop where we'd spent half our college years. When she arrived, she looked tired. Still beautiful, but there was something different, maybe in me, maybe in her. I handed her the letter, told her everything, how I loved her since I was 15, how I'd waited through every rejection because I believed someday she'd see me the way I saw her. She read it silently, then looked up, teary-eyed. For a second, I thought she'd finally say yes. Instead, she whispered, "Ethan, I can't. I need time to figure myself out." Time. That word felt like someone pulling the last thread holding me together. I smiled, nodded, said, "Take all the time you need." Then I walked away and didn't look back. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, surrounded by old texts, screenshots, and photos I didn't have the heart to delete. Every "miss you," every "good night," Every half promise that kept me hoping. And for the first time in years, I realized something brutal. She never loved me. She just loved that I loved her. She loved the way I made her feel wanted, safe, adored without ever having to give anything real back. I wasn't her person. I was her backup plan. The guy she kept around just in case no one else stayed. That realization hit harder than any rejection ever could, because it wasn't just about her saying no. It was about me saying yes over and over to someone who never even asked. I stayed because I thought persistence was love. That waiting meant loyalty. That if I proved myself long enough, she'd finally see me. But she did see me. She just didn't choose me. And that's the part that broke me. I didn't sleep that night. I deleted her number, blocked her socials, and wrote one last note. Not for her, but for me. You can't keep loving someone who only loves your attention. I stuck it on my mirror and read it every morning until I started believing it. It took months to unlearn her the sound of her laugh, the smell of her perfume, the way she said my name when she wanted something. But eventually, the silence stopped hurting. I started talking to new people. I picked up old hobbies. I laughed again genuinely this time. And for the first time in nearly a decade, I felt free. Years later, people still ask if I ever regret not waiting longer for Lily. The truth? I waited long enough to know she was never coming. She wasn't the one that got away. She was the one who never planned to stay. And that night, sitting alone with that crushed letter and those dead flowers, I made myself a promise. That night, I swore I'd stop chasing people who never planned to stay. I met Maya when I wasn't looking for love, and that's probably why it found me. I wasn't exactly in the best place when I met her. After Lily, I told myself I was done with love, done with feelings, done with chasing anyone. I buried myself in work, went to the gym out of spite, and tried convincing myself that solitude was peace. Spoiler, it wasn't peace. It was just quiet heartbreak. Months went by like that. I'd go to work, come home, microwave dinner, and scroll through my phone just to torture myself with memories I should have deleted. Every now and then, I'd see Lily's name pop up on social media, new hair, new city, new boyfriend, and though I told myself I didn't care, my stomach would still drop every single time. Until the day I met Maya. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my least favorite day of the week, too far from the weekend to feel good, too close to Monday to feel new. I was at a coffee shop downtown, typing away on my laptop, trying to get ahead on a project. I looked up when I heard someone arguing with the barista about oat milk. That's how I first saw her. She wasn't movie beautiful. Like Lily, she didn't have that delicate, untouchable thing going on, but there was something real about her. Her hair was messy in that effortless way, her laugh was loud enough to turn heads, and her energy filled the room like she owned it. The barista looked tired, and she was trying to explain that she'd asked for extra oat milk foam because texture matters. I couldn't help but laugh. She caught me. "You're laughing at me?" she asked, eyebrows raised. "I mean," I said, trying not to grin, "it's a strong opinion for oat milk." She smirked. "Some of us have standards. That's how it started. No fireworks, no love at first sight. Just sarcasm over coffee foam. But sometimes the best things start when you're not even trying." We ended up sitting near each other that day, both working on our laptops. Eventually, she asked if I could watch her things while she went to grab her drink. When she came back, she said, "Thanks, coffee hero." I laughed. "That's the nicest title I've ever had." She told me her name, Maya. She was a freelance graphic designer, recently moved to the city, still figuring things out. We talked for maybe 20 minutes before I had to leave, but I found myself thinking about her the whole drive home. Something about her felt light, like she wasn't pretending to be anything. A week later, I ran into her again, same coffee shop, same corner. "Back to judge people's milk choices?" I teased. She grinned. "Depends. You still on that boring black coffee light?" That became our thing, coffee banter. Then casual conversations, then full-on deep talks about everything from work stress to childhood dreams. I didn't ask for her number that day. She asked for mine. "You seem like a guy who could use some unsolicited memes." She was right. We started texting random stuff at first. Funny posts, late-night thoughts. "You won't believe what my client just asked for" kind of messages. She was honest in a way that was refreshing. She didn't play games. If she liked something, she said it. If she didn't, she said that too. And for the first time in years, I wasn't second-guessing everything I said. No waiting hours for replies. No cryptic half answers, no emotional tug of war, just simple, real connection. One night, about a month in, she asked about my past relationships. I hesitated. "There's one person who took up a lot of space in my life." She nodded slowly. "You still love her?" I took a long breath. I loved the version of her I thought existed. But no, not anymore. She didn't press. She just said, "Good." Because whoever that was, she sounds like she didn't deserve the version of you that waited. That line stuck with me. We went on our first official date a week later, a local art fair. She showed up in ripped jeans and an oversized hoodie, holding 2 funnel cakes. "Just in case one isn't enough," she said. We walked for hours, laughing, trying weird food samples, people watching, and taking pictures. It wasn't romantic in the candlelight dinner kind of way, but it was real. And when she grabbed my hand halfway through the evening, it wasn't dramatic. It just fit. Being with Maya felt like breathing after years of holding my breath. With Lily, love had felt like climbing a mountain that kept getting taller. With Maya, it felt like finally reaching the top and realizing the view was worth it. She didn't need grand gestures. She didn't need me to prove myself. She just wanted me, the real, messy, sometimes overthinking version. When I'd spiral, she'd call me out. When I'd doubt myself, she'd remind me how far I'd come. When I talk about my past, she'd listen without judging. She made me laugh again, not the fake laugh you give to fill silence, but the kind that comes from somewhere deep. About 6 months into dating, I got a message from her, Lily. Hey, stranger, it said. My heart still stuttered for a second. Like muscle memory, I did reply. A few days later, I missed talking to you. I ignored that one too. Then a third. You moved on fast. That one almost got me angry. Like she had the right to say that after years of treating me like a spare tire. Maya noticed I was quieter that evening. She didn't pry, she just asked, "Ghosts?" I nodded. She smiled softly. "Block them. Ghosts only stay if you keep the lights on." So I did. The months turned into years. We moved in together. Life started feeling peaceful. No drama, no guessing games, just laughter, grocery runs, bad cooking experiments, and late night movie marathons. She supported me when I quit my job to start my own business. She believed in me when even I didn't. When my small startup took off, she was the first to celebrate, not because of money or success, but because she said, "I always knew you'd build something worth being proud of." That was Maya proud of me, not for me. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We fought sometimes, usually over small stuff. I'd forget to do laundry, she'd forget to charge her phone. But even when we argued, it felt safe. Like no matter what, we'd find our way back. I remember one fight vividly. I got upset because she teased me about still being too cautious with people. I said something defensive like, "You don't know what it's like to be treated like an option." She looked hurt for a second, then said quietly, "No, but I know what it's like to love someone who doesn't believe he deserves to be chosen." That hit me like a truck because she was right. For years, I tied my worth to how much someone else wanted me. And Maya, she wasn't here to fix me. She was here to remind me I wasn't broken. On our 3rd anniversary, I proposed. Not in a big fancy way, just us, at that same coffee shop where we met. I told her I didn't have a grand speech prepared. Just a simple truth. "You made me stop chasing love and start living it." She laughed, cried, said yes before I even finished the sentence. We didn't post about it immediately. We just went home, ordered takeout, and danced barefoot in our living room. That was the night I realized peace can be louder than passion. A few weeks later, I got another message. That's it. Block number. "Ethan, it's me. Please don't ignore this. I made a mistake." I didn't need to ask who it was. Lily had found my number again. She said she'd seen my engagement photos online. Thanks, mutual friends. She said she'd finally realized I was the one. That she was ready now. Ready now. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I deleted the message without replying. Maya walked into the room, noticed something in my face, and asked, "Everything okay?" I smiled. "Yeah. Everything's perfect." Because for the first time, it really was. We started planning our wedding together, small venue. Close friends, nothing flashy. Maya wanted wildflowers instead of roses, live music instead of a DJ, and cupcakes instead of a fancy cake. I told her she could have whatever she wanted. She said, "Then I want you to show up on time." That was Maya never taking life too seriously, but taking us seriously enough. Sometimes, late at night, I'd still think about how things used to be. Not in a what-if way, but in a thank God I learned way. Because when you've been someone's backup plan for years, finding someone who sees you as their only plan hits different. Maya taught me that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. That sometimes the most romantic thing isn't fireworks. It's someone saying after the spark fades. And when Lily's name flashed on my phone one last time months later, saying, "I still love you," I didn't even hesitate. I blocked her. Permanently. Because I realized something that night, closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself. Maya and I spent that evening sitting on our balcony, eating takeout, and planning our honeymoon. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't met?" I smiled. "Yeah, I think I'd still be waiting for someone who never planned to stay." She kissed my hand and whispered, "Good thing I did." And that's how I knew I'd spent years chasing Lily's maybe. But I wasn't giving up my forever for it. An hour before my wedding, I got a text that said, "Don't do it. You're making the biggest mistake of your life." You know that calm before a storm? The eerie quietness where everything feels too perfect, almost like the universe is holding its breath. That's what my wedding morning felt like. The air was soft and bright. The sun filtered through the curtains of the small hotel suite where I was getting ready with my best man, Ben. The faint smell of coffee and aftershave filled the room. My tux hung neatly by the mirror. My phone buzzed every few seconds, family texting, vendors confirming, Maya sending me a sweet "I love you" before her makeup session. Everything was right, or at least I thought it was. Then my phone buzzed again. At first, I ignored it. I was busy fumbling with cufflinks while Ben made jokes about how I'd probably forget my vows halfway through. He'd been my best friend since college, loyal, loud, and painfully honest. "Dude, stop smiling so much," Ben said, laughing. "You look like a rom-com poster." "Can't help it," I said, staring at the tux. "She's perfect, man. I never thought I'd get here." Ben raised a brow. "Yeah, after the Lily era, miracles happen." We both laughed, but the mention of her name felt like a ghost brushing past. I hadn't heard from Lily in months. The last text from her was, "Hope you're happy," back when Maya had posted our engagement photo. I left it unread. That chapter was over, or so I believed. Then my phone buzzed again. Ben threw a sock at me. "Dude, your phone's going nuts. Either Maya's nervous or you're trending on Reddit for finally growing a spine." I chuckled and picked it up and froze. The message on my screen wasn't from Maya. It was from a number I hadn't saved but knew by heart. "Lily, don't do it. You're making the biggest mistake of your life." For a second, I genuinely thought I was hallucinating, like my brain decided to play some cruel nostalgia trick before the happiest day of my life. But no, it was real. The timestamp, the contact initials, everything. Ben noticed my face change. "Hey, you good?" I handed him the phone wordlessly. His eyes widened. "Are you kidding me?" he muttered. "Now? On your wedding day?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Now." The thing about trauma is it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, "Remember me?" And that's what that text felt like. A whisper from a version of myself I'd buried years ago. The kid who waited for Lily's approval, who chased her every maybe, who confused attention for affection. Ben put a hand on my shoulder. "Don't reply, bro. She's fishing for attention. She can't stand that you moved on." "I know," I said quietly, but my chest felt tight. Then came another text. "Lily, I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes, please." I didn't reply. Ben snatched the phone and tossed it on the bed. "Ignore it. Today's about Maya. You've worked too damn hard to let Lily mess with your head again." He was right. And yet, curiosity is a stubborn thing. My mind started racing. Why now? What could she possibly want? But I pushed it away. I wasn't that guy anymore. The next few hours were a blur of family photos, laughter, and light music. Maya's cousins were running around. My mom was trying not to cry every 5 minutes, and the planner kept asking where the rings were. Ben had them, thankfully. Everything was beautiful. Until my mom came over, frowning slightly. "Honey, do you know a girl named Lily?" My stomach dropped. "Why?" "She called this morning, said she was an old friend and wanted to speak to you before the ceremony." I told her it wasn't a good time, of course, but she sounded desperate. Ben overheard and groaned. "She's harassing everyone now." My mom looked concerned. "Should we call someone?" I took a deep breath. "No, it's fine. Just block her number if she calls again." Mom nodded hesitantly. "Okay, but don't let anyone ruin your day, sweetheart." When she left, Ben muttered, "She's getting bold. If she shows up here, I'm tossing her out myself." I forced a smile. "Appreciate it, bouncer," he smirked. "For you? Always." As the ceremony time approached, my nerves returned, but for the right reasons this time. The venue was perfect. A rustic outdoor setup with fairy lights, a white arch draped in flowers, and about 100 guests dressed to the nines. I could see the chairs filling up from the side window of the groom's room. Ben adjusted my tie one last time. "All right, lover boy, you ready?" I smiled. Never been more sure of anything. But right before we stepped out, my phone buzzed again. "Lily, you don't love her. You're still mine." I stared at the message until the letters blurred. For a moment, my breath hitched, not because I believed her, but because I realized how much power she used to have over me. Once upon a time, those words would have broken me. Now, they just felt sad. I deleted the message. Permanently, Ben clapped his hands. "Let's go make history, bro." The ceremony started. Soft piano music played. Guests turned. Cameras clicked. I stood under the arch, palms sweating, heart pounding. Then I saw her, Maya. She walked down the aisle in a flowing ivory dress, sunlight catching her hair, eyes locked on mine. She wasn't nervous. She was glowing. And in that moment, I forgot about everything. The text, the noise, the past. It was just her. When she reached me, she whispered, "You okay?" I smiled, steady and certain. Never been better. The officiant began speaking. The crowd faded into a blur. Every vow, every promise, every laugh felt like the closing of a long, painful chapter and the start of something real. And then it happened. A collective gasp swept through the audience. The music faltered. People started whispering. I frowned, turning to see what happened. At the back of the hall, framed by the sunlight, stood Lily, in a white dress. Time froze. It was like the universe pressed a pause. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. She wasn't dressed as a guest. She wasn't even subtle. She looked like she'd walked straight out of a parallel version of this day, her own twisted fantasy where she was the bride instead of Maya. Maya followed my gaze, confusion flickering into disbelief. Who is that?" Ben's jaw tightened. "You've got to be kidding me." I didn't move. Couldn't. Lily took a step forward, trembling but determined. Her voice, though soft, cut through the silence. "Ethan," she said, eyes glassy. "Please don't do this." Every guest turned toward me. Some whispered. Cameras stopped clicking. The officiant looked lost, unsure if he should keep reading or call security. I felt the blood drain from my face. Lily's eyes darted between me and Maya. "You can't marry her. You love me. You always have." The words echoed in the air, unreal and heavy. Ben moved fast, stepping in front of her. "That's enough. You need to leave." She tried to push past him. "No, he needs to hear me." But I didn't. Not anymore. I took Maya's hand. It was shaking slightly, but when she looked at me, her expression wasn't anger, it was hurt and fear. Fear that the ghosts of my past were about to shatter everything we built. So I squeezed her hand and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Lily froze. The fight drained from her face. Her lip trembled, and for a moment, she looked lost, like she realized too late that her power was gone. Ben called for security. They escorted her out gently but firmly. She didn't resist. She just kept looking back at me until the doors closed behind her. The silence that followed was thick. Embarrassment, pity, shock. But Maya looked at me, took a deep breath, and whispered, "Let's keep going." And so we did. We said our vows. We promised forever. And I meant every word. But as the ceremony continued, I couldn't shake the image of Lily standing there in white, like a ghost haunting her own choices. Later that night, after the reception, when the laughter and music had finally faded, I sat by the window of our suite. Maya was asleep beside me, exhausted but peaceful. I looked at her, really looked, and realized that love isn't supposed to feel like chaos. It's supposed to feel like quiet certainty. My phone lit up once more. A final message. Lily, I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I turned the phone off, slipped into bed beside my wife, and whispered the truth I'd waited years to understand. I'd spent years chasing Lily's maybe. I wasn't giving up my forever for it. She didn't come to watch me get married. She came to stop me. Weddings are supposed to be about joy, about two people standing in front of the world and saying, this is my person. Mine almost turned into a public exorcism of my past. When Lily appeared in that doorway in a white dress, everything else blurred. The music stopped mid-note. Conversations froze mid-sentence, and even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. 100 faces turned from the aisle to the back of the hall. Some guests whispered. Others just stared. Maya's fingers tightened around mine. Her eyes flicked from Lily to me, searching for answers. Ben was already halfway down the aisle, moving like a linebacker. But Lily beat him to the spotlight. She lifted her chin, voice trembling, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Ethan, you can't marry her. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the officiant blinked, unsure if this was a prank or a tragedy. I felt my pulse in my ears. Lily, what are you doing? She took a shaky step forward, clutching the small purse she carried like it held her courage. I made a mistake, she said. All these years I was scared, okay? I pushed you away because I didn't think I deserved you. But you were mine. You are mine. Ben intercepted her halfway down the aisle. Nope, you're leaving. But Lily kept talking over him, her words tumbling out like she'd been rehearsing them in the mirror for months. I loved you, Ethan. I always did. I didn't know how to show it. Every time you said you loved me, I panicked. I thought you'd get tired of me or that I'd ruin everything, but you never stopped. And now you're marrying her? She pointed toward Maya, her voice cracking. You don't even love her the way you love me. A murmur rippled through the guests. Phones came out. People were recording. My stomach turned. I could feel the heat crawling up my neck. Maya didn't move. She just looked at me, calm. Heartbreak sitting quietly behind her eyes. The kind of calm that said, handle this, and then come back to me. Lily kept talking. You told me I was your forever. You waited for me for years, and I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. Please, Ethan, don't do this. Her voice broke on the word, please. It should have made me feel something. Pity, nostalgia, regret. But all I felt was exhaustion. For years, I dreamed of moments like this where Lily would finally see my worth. Finally say the words I waited to hear. But not like this. Not when I was finally happy. Not when it was too late. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, gently moving past Ben. Lily, I said softly, you need to stop. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, I need to fight. For you. I let you go once. I'm not doing it again. Lily, she cut me off. You don't love her. You think you do, but you don't. You love me. You'll realize it when she's gone. Something in me snapped. Years of swallowed words, late-night doubts, and heartbreak rose like a tide. I'd spent half a decade being quiet, being understanding, being her emotional crutch. Not anymore. So I let it out. You think you know what love is? My voice was calm at first, but every syllable carried the weight of every rejection. You don't. You only wanted me when it was safe, when it cost you nothing. Lily froze. The room did too. You said no the first time. I laughed it off. The second time, you said you weren't ready. Third, you didn't want to ruin our friendship. Fourth, you were finding yourself. Fifth, you met someone else. Sixth, you said I was too good for you. Seventh, you said I was better off without you. And the eighth time you let me plan an entire proposal before telling me you needed time. My throat burned, but I kept going. Do you know what that does to a person, Lily? Waiting for someone who keeps saying maybe someday while they date everyone else in the meantime? You made me believe patience would turn into love, but it didn't. It just made me small. No one breathed. Even the kids sitting in the front row went still. You had 8 chances, I said quietly, 8 times to choose me, and every single time you chose your comfort over my love. Lily's lip trembled. I was scared. No, I interrupted. You were selfish. You liked having someone orbit around you without ever landing. You liked knowing I'd be there when everything else fell apart. But guess what? I gestured toward Maya. I stopped orbiting. I found gravity. Maya's eyes glistened. Ben muttered under his breath. Holy hell, but I barely heard him. Don't ruin this for me because you're finally lonely, I said, and don't confuse guilt with love. Lily covered her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. I didn't mean to. I know, I said, voice softening, but that doesn't make it okay. The silence that followed was almost sacred. The officiant looked stunned. Guests shifted uncomfortably. A few clapped awkwardly before realizing it wasn't the right time. Then Maya moved. She walked up beside me, her heels clicking softly against the aisle floor. She reached for my hand steady, deliberate, and whispered just loud enough for the crowd to hear. Let's finish what we started. That single sentence broke whatever spell Lily had cast over the room. Applause rippled through the crowd, tentative at first, then growing. The officiant, bless him, cleared his throat like he'd just remembered his job. Shall we continue? I nodded. Yes, please. Lily turned and ran out of the hall. No one stopped her this time. When the doors closed behind her, I exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. The ceremony picked back up, a little shakier, but still full of heart. Maya said her vows with tears in her eyes, not because of what happened, but because she knew exactly what it took for me to stand there, unbroken. I don't need a perfect story, she said, voice trembling. I just need an honest one, and I choose you, the real you. When it was my turn, I looked at her and said, I spent too long chasing a love that never wanted to stay. You taught me that real love doesn't run, it stays. even when it's hard. We exchanged rings. The crowd cheered. And when she kissed me, it felt like the world finally exhaled. At the reception later, people pretended nothing had happened, but I could feel the lingering whispers. I didn't care. Maya and I danced under the string lights. Her head rested on my chest, her fingers tracing lazy circles on my shoulder. You okay? She murmured. Yeah, I said honestly. For the first time in a long time. She smiled. Good, because you were kind of terrifying back there. I laughed. Guess I had a few things to get off my chest. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and stared at my phone. One unread message. Lily, I'm sorry for everything. I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. No reply, no closure conversation. Because sometimes closure isn't something you get, it's something you decide. I turned to see Maya asleep, her makeup smudged, her hand still clutching mine even in her dreams. I felt a sting in my eyes, the kind that's half grief, half relief. Maybe a part of me would always love Lily. Not the real her, the idea of her. But love doesn't die. It just learns to live somewhere else. I thought the wedding was the end of the story. Turns out it was just the final lesson. If you'd told me years ago that the girl who once made me lose sleep would someday crash my wedding in a white dress, I would have laughed. If you told me I'd marry someone else anyway, I would have said you were out of your mind. And yet, here we are. Life's funny that way. It gives you everything you once begged for, but only after you've stopped needing it. A few weeks after the chaos, things finally settled. Maya and I escaped for our honeymoon somewhere quiet, warm, and mercifully free of Wi-Fi. No notifications, no whispers, just ocean air, lazy mornings, and each other. The world had seen enough drama from us. We were ready for silence. The first few days felt like detox. No wedding planners, no crisis management, no guests asking, so, are you okay? Just Maya and I, waking up to sunlight through thin curtains and the smell of salt in the air. Every morning, she'd make coffee while humming some random tune she half remembered from the radio. I'd watch her, still half in disbelief that she was mine. This is it, she said one morning, handing me my cup. This is the real, forever. I smiled. Feels quiet. Quiet's good? She said. After your ex showed up in a wedding dress, I'll take quiet any day. I laughed, nearly choking on my coffee. Even now, Maya had this way of taking the heaviest moments and making them light. She didn't pretend it hadn't happened. She didn't ignore it. She acknowledged it, then moved on. That's what I loved about her. She didn't get stuck on the pain. She built past it. We spent our days exploring beaches, markets, hidden cafes. At night, we'd lie under the stars and talk about everything except the past. And yet, sometimes it still crept in. One evening, as we watched the sun sink into the horizon, Maya asked softly, "Do you ever think about her?" I didn't lie. Sometimes, not because I miss her, just because I finally understand her. Maya nodded. That's fair. I used to think she broke me, I said, but I think she just showed me what I didn't want to become, someone afraid to love the right way. Maya leaned on my shoulder. You didn't become her. That's what matters. And in that moment, I realized she was right. I wasn't the broken kid chasing an answer anymore. I was a man who found peace in the quiet after the storm. When we got back home 2 weeks later, there was a stack of mail, waiting bills, congratulations cards, the usual post-wedding chaos. But among them was one plain white envelope, no return address, my name written in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. Lily's handwriting. My first instinct was to throw it away. My second was to read it. Not because I owed her anything, but because I wanted closure on my terms this time. I sat down at the kitchen table, the afternoon sun cutting lines across the floor, and opened it. The letter was 3 pages long, neat, careful. You could tell she'd rewritten it a few times before sending it. It began simply. Ethan, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this. But if you do, I just want you to know that I'm sorry for everything. She went on to explain things I'd suspected but never heard from her before. That she used to get a thrill from knowing someone loved her so much because it made her feel safe, wanted, powerful even. But that safety came from control, not connection. You were my anchor, she wrote. But I didn't know how to stay grounded without drifting. Every time you got close, I panicked. Every time you pulled away, I panicked more. She admitted she'd watched our wedding online, that someone had sent her a video of her own outburst spreading around social media. The internet, of course, had its opinions. Half the comments called her unhinged, the other half called me a legend for the monologue. But for her, it was humiliation, the kind that strips you bare. Seeing myself like that broke something in me, she wrote. For the first time, I saw what you must have seen for years, a girl who didn't know how to love without hurting people. She said she'd started therapy, that her therapist told her she had avoidant attachment and used emotional distance as self-defense. She said she was learning to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. You loved me when I was impossible to love, and I repaid you with fear and pride. I can't undo it, but I hope someday you'll remember me as a mistake that helped you find the right person, not just as a scar. By the time I finished reading, my chest felt heavy, not with anger, but something else. Maybe empathy. Maybe grief for the version of her that could have been different. Maya walked in just then, holding 2 mugs of tea. You look deep in thought, she said. I held up the letter. It's from her. Maya hesitated for a second. Do you want to talk about it? I nodded and read it out loud, every word. When I finished, the room was quiet for a long time. Maya's expression wasn't jealous or bitter, just thoughtful. Finally, she said. Sounds like she's trying to heal. Yeah, I said. I hope she does. Maya smiled faintly. You're not angry? I shook my head. No, I think I stopped being angry a long time ago. She's not the villain anymore. She's just someone who didn't know better. Maya reached over and took my hand. You know, you could reply. I thought about it, really thought about it, but then I shook my head. No, not because I hate her, but because some chapters close quietly. I don't want to reopen something that's finally still. Maya nodded. Then that's your answer. That night, after she fell asleep, I went to my desk and pulled out an old photo me and Lily in college, before things fell apart. We looked happy, young, invincible. I stared at it for a long moment, then tore it neatly in half and dropped it in the trash. Not out of spite, out of peace. The next morning, I took Maya out for breakfast. She teased me about my inability to order anything but pancakes. We talked about travel plans, house projects, random nonsense. It felt normal again. No ghosts, no drama, just us. And yet, somewhere deep down, I knew Lily's letter had changed something. Not between me and Maya, but inside me. It closed a loop that had been open for almost a decade. Because for the first time, I realized that forgiveness isn't about the other person at all. It's about setting yourself free from the story you've outgrown. A few weeks later, Ben dropped by for a beer. He plopped down on the couch and said, You know that video of your wedding speech hit like 3 million views? I groaned. Please don't remind me. He laughed. Bro, people are calling you the guy who rejected rejection. Someone even made a remix out of your "You had 8 chances" line. Maya laughed from the kitchen. Should I be jealous you're internet famous? Only if my next TED Talk is about emotional damage, I said. But honestly, I didn't care about the views or the headlines. That moment, the one the world saw, was never about revenge. It was about release. The internet got the viral clip. I got my piece. Months passed. Life returned to its rhythm. Maya and I built a home together literally. We painted walls, argued about curtain colors, got a rescue dog named Max, who immediately became our entire personality. Every now and then, a memory of Lily floated up, a song, a place, a smell, but it didn't sting anymore. It just existed. Quietly. One night, while tucking away some old boxes, I found my college journal. Flipping through it, I stumbled on a page from years ago, written after one of Lily's rejections. If she ever says yes, maybe I'll finally be enough. I stared at that line for a long time, almost unable to recognize the person who wrote it. Because now, I knew love isn't about being enough for someone. It's about finding someone who already sees that you are. Maya came into the room, hair tied up, paint on her cheek. What's that? She asked. Old version of me, I said, closing the book. He was a fool, she smiled. A lovable fool, I laughed. 8 rejections worth of foolishness. She wrapped her arms around me. Well, lucky for me, you learned your lesson. Yeah, I whispered, kissing her forehead. Best lesson I ever learned. I never wrote Lily back. But sometimes, when I think about her, I hope she's okay. I hope she finds someone patient enough to see the good in her and strong enough not to let herself sabotage it. Because the truth is, she did love me in her own broken way. And I loved her too, but some loves aren't meant to last. They're meant to teach. And she taught me more than she'll ever know. Looking back now, everything makes sense. Every no she gave me pushed me toward the one person who never hesitated. Every heartbreak shaped me into someone capable of loving the right way, not desperately, but deliberately. If she hadn't rejected me 8 times, I might never have recognized Maya when she showed up. So, yeah, I guess I'm grateful. She rejected me 8 times, but every no led me to the only yes that ever mattered. And sometimes, the best revenge is a life she'll never be part of. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. We have so many more amazing stories coming your way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to reach 100K subscribers by the end of this year, and we'd love for you to be part of this journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.